And the first speaker today is Alex Bateman, and he's from Cambridge, and he'll be talking about paper mosaic. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. So today I'm going to be talking about origami, which has been let's call it a special interest for some 25 years now. And so if you're interested in more stuff, you can find me on Twitter at PaperMosaics1. And if you want to find out more about this subject, you're interested, so there is the Origami Science, Maths and Education Conference in Oxford next year in September. The abstract deadline, if you want to submit a paper, is the 1st of December, so there's still time. But it's just a short abstract you need to submit initially. And this meeting only happens once every 4 years. This is the Olympics of the origami science, and so this is a big opportunity. It's back here in the UK. So just to make my excuses, I am neither a mathematician nor an artist. I'm a moonlighting biologist, and so here I used to work at this place called the Sanger Institute, just south of Cambridge, where the human genome was sequenced. And here you can see us wrestling with the DNA there. And, but I've had this long-held interest in origami. I used to fold animals and the kind of standard stuff, and then I got interested in this geometric side of things, and that's been my interest for the last 20 years. And in particular, it's folding this thing called an origami tessellation. Okay, I'm sure you all know what tessellations are. If you've got an origami tessellation, you'll end up making something like, I'm not sure how that's going to, can you see that? Okay, so it kind of, there's
you hold it against the screen.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work at all.
No.
I tried that. Anyway, I'll show some more slides of this. So these are a repeating geometric pattern of origami. When people look at them, they think there must be bits stuck on, and so it kind of tricks the eye, but really it's just one sheet of folded paper, all creases. So I'll talk about those, some history, the algorithms that we use to generate them, and the underlying tilings. I'll talk briefly about the TESS software program, and then a bit more about some of the things I've been doing to sort of find interesting tilings to work with. So here's the tile of an origami tessellation. It's on the left. This is called a twist crease pattern, and this one has 4 radial pleats going off it. And if you fold this up, you wrestle it, then you come up with something like this. You can connect these things together. So if we connect 4 of them together, then we'll get a pattern like this. So far, so simple. Things get a bit more complicated as you go to more and more complex tilings. So we can do octagons and squares, and we come up with something like this. So this genre of origami is somewhat niche. It started in the 1960s, or so we thought, with Yoshihide Momotani and Shuzo Fujimoto, who came up with some of the earliest works, and then a succession of people who've sort of developed things over the years. Actually, we thought that these were the people that started it. It turns out that more things came out of the woodwork, and some quite interesting ones too. Frank Van Collum, this guy called Ron Resch, created these things, and David Huffman, who probably many of you know from Huffman Encodings and so on, mathematician. He did a lot of work on these curve foldings, and actually the stuff that I'm going to talk about is very flat, so it's all 2D origami. But Tomohiro, I think, is going to take things in a 3-dimensional direction afterwards. So that took the history of these origami tessellations back a few decades. Actually, it turns out that they've been around for much, much longer than that. And this guy here is from a company, Cement Pleating, who they do pleating of fabric. And it turns out that there have been ateliers who've been creating this for fashion houses. And they've been doing this for 2 centuries. And here we can see rolled up are these essentially origami tessellations. You get the sheets of paper, 2 of the sheets pre-creased. You put your material in between them, sort of squish them up, stick them in the oven, and leave them to cure. and then you get these beautiful pleated fabrics. So yeah, the history of these things is much longer than we had expected. So I'm just going to give a quick tour through some of the different styles of these things. So this is what I call the standard kind of origami tessellation. You'll notice a lot of hexagons, equilateral triangles, everything's on this triangular grid. Also, you'll see a lot of squares on a rectilinear grid. People have been doing this kind of stuff. And so I've been trying to get away from that. Another style that's become very popular, flagstone tessellation. So you make it so the twist folds all line up with just small gaps between them, so it looks like a flagstone pathway. Another style is woven strips. So you're trying to trick the eye into thinking that there are these woven strips sort of weaving in and out between the layers. And the sort of, these things, if you look at the back of them, then you really see there are no strips there. This is just one sheet of paper. And I have many examples if you're interested afterwards. Do come and look. So the genre's expanded. Of course, these are origami people, so they love to make animals, right? So they couldn't resist combining the two. So here we have by Saifa Mabono. This is a tessellation of a fugu pufferfish, and you can expand it up. One of the earliest examples was Richardson's hedgehog here, a bit primitive, and then Eric Joisel's pangolin, which is a truly fearsome piece of origami, quite amazing.
It's just one sheet of paper.
Oh yeah, that's one sheet of paper. Yeah, it's life-sized. It's an amazing.
How long
thing.
does it take to fold it?
So for you,
Yes.
infinite time. For Eric Choisel, this is a work of many weeks to do this.
What order of magnitude of number of folds would you have?
For this one, I would think it would be on the sort of low thousands. Yeah. Okay, so animals, but also we can move more into the human form. And so Joel Cooper has these wonderful masks. I have a couple of examples at home. They're really beautiful pieces of artwork. And this three-dimensional, as I said, Tomohiro Tachi will talk more about this, and he uses these origami supercomputers and algorithms, and then creates these super complex crease patterns. And maybe if you ask him very nicely, he'll tell you what this thing turns into. It's quite a remarkable piece of origami. Okay, so how do we compute an origami tessellation? Actually, the algorithm is fairly simple to go from this tiling to the tessellation. And I'll explain it briefly. So here we have a tiling of squares. What we have to do is select centers of scaling and rotation. So they're shown here, and then we shrink each of the original tiles. And imagine that there was a kind of an elastic band that connects together the vertices here, and it generates a new tile, which I'll call a baby. And when we rotate these original tiles, then we come up with this pattern here. And this is the just like the original twist unit that I showed you. So we can apply this to a large number of different tilings. And I'll explain the kinds of tilings that you can do that to. But just to say a word about the parameters that we parameterize this with. So we call this the pleat angle between what I'll call the adult tile and the baby tile. And then there's this pleat ratio, which I'll call gamma, which is the ratio of the adult edge to the baby tile edge. And those are selected for a particular reason that we'll come to a bit later. So here's an example of this 488 tiling. We apply the algorithm to it. The centers are shown here. And this is the crease pattern that we arrive at if we select a particular alpha and a particular gamma. And if we fold that up, then it gives rise to something that looks like this. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. So what tilings work with this algorithm? So all tiles must be convex, and so that means all the Archimedean K-uniform tilings, they work straight out of the box very, very easily. So the centers of rotation, you have to pick those carefully, and those must define an orthogonal dual tiling. And it's kind of odd to note, but all edge lengths must be positive in that dual tiling. So if we think about a tiling here of parallelograms, actually you can't see, but there's what would be the dual tiling here in a light green. It's not very clear, but here this wouldn't make an origami tessellation because these aren't orthogonal. Okay, so when you apply the algorithm, you end up with this. This is not flat foldable. For flat foldable things around vertex, the alternate angles add up to 180 degrees, and that's not the case here. So this is unfoldable. But we can rescue that. And so the way that we can do this, so here we have the tiling with the dual in green. Now what we can do is actually we can stretch the tiling up and down. And if we do exactly the same to the dual, but from side to side, then that's by the same amount, then that means that the edges are still all orthogonal between the primal tiling and the dual tiling. So yeah, that stretching algorithm actually can be applied to any tiling that we do this origami tessellation algorithm with. It can give some quite interesting results. And this rescues the flat foldability of every vertex, and so it can be folded. So some interesting points about this. Actually, the tiling and the dual need not be in the same place on the plane. They can be widely separated, and the algorithm still works just fine. So now the great origami artist Robert Lang and I collaborated on the algorithms and looking at this, and we came up with an interesting result here. So we know that, let's see, so every spider web has an orthogonal dual tiling, and unfortunately this is so faint you can't see. There is a picture of a spider web here, and it's orthogonal dual. I'm sorry, it doesn't come out.
Yeah. We have the lighting down.
I'm not. That may rescue it, but I'm.
The white background is not coming out.
Well, completely.
You turn it off completely.
Okay, we
I
can
haven't
try
been
that.
able to see any green.
That's worse.
Okay, I'm just going to skip forward a slide.
Hold on. Oh.
Okay, so here we can see roughly, this is what it's going to look like when it's folded. So you can see here's the spider web, and the dual, well, let's not worry about the dual. But so that for every spider web, so spider webs, every strand is under tension, right? And now we know from, let's bring James Clerk Maxwell into the equation yet again, just about every talk has. So he came up with this concept of the reciprocal diagram. Okay, so for bridges and so on, looking at the tensions and compressions, the stresses there. And so this reciprocal diagram is essentially the orthogonal dual. Okay, and so if everything is under tension, no compressions, just like in the spider web, then you're guaranteed to have an orthogonal dual with no negative edge length. So essentially the outcome of all this is that every spider web can be made into an origami tessellation. We weren't expecting that. Okay, so this has all been coded up into something called the TESS program. It's written in Perl, which makes all my students laugh. It is object-oriented, at least. There's a command line interface. There is a Windows executable. I have a Mac, so I have no idea if this actually still works for anyone, but it's on this website and should be downloadable, and you should be able to play with it. And the source code is available on the web. So you get something. This is the GUI, and you can select a wide range of geometries. And then if you click on this Origamify button, it applies this algorithm that I've just told you about. And then you can start to fiddle with the different parameters there. Okay, so you can zoom in. It's not so interesting, but you can change the pleat ratio. So you go from this tessellation where the pleat ratio is 1 to having the pleat ratio, this line to this line, or this line to this line of being 3. And so you can fiddle about with that, change the pleat angle as well. So now, what we'd really like to know is, well, what does the thing look like when it's folded up? And interestingly, so it turns out that if you give the negative pleat angle, then that gives you the folded tessellation. Okay, so Robert Lang and I theorized that any construction method which uses the parameters alpha and gamma will generate the folded form if you give it the negative alpha parameter. So yeah, we can change the pleat angle or alpha to negative here, and then we see how the thing looks like folded up. So yeah, there are a wide variety of tilings coded up in here, a whole bunch of K-uniform tilings, other, you know, a whole bunch of things. And so then once you've coded up the sort of the kind of trivial set of things, then you start hunting around for what other interesting tilings are there out there. And so I stumble across Kepler's tilings, and so actually Kepler's tilings don't work. The monsters, the fused decagons, non-convex, and also these pentacles. So, but you can fix that. You can coerce them to being convex pretty easily, and so then come up with the origami tessellation for that.
You mean they don't work with your program?
No, they
you
do
cannot
not
fold
work. They cannot be made into origami tessellations. They won't give, when you apply the algorithm, they won't give flat foldable vertices. So then you can take things like these octagons and you can simply decompose them, and this gives you much more, you get complexity rather rapidly in doing these sorts of things. You can apply what I call a crystal transformation, so you just inset the polygon as many times as you like at various distances, and then you get these strange sort of towers of patterns. And the software allows you to take a tiling and apply these actions onto them. And so you can come up with sort of quite ordered yet chaotic looking tessellations, which are sort of quite interesting. This is based on a 4-6-12 tiling, but yet we've made one of these crystals in the middle of that dodecagon. I took a random look through Grunbaum and Shepard patterns and tilings, and you come across spiral tilings. Well, we can apply the algorithm here. And also, if we just want to go crazy, and we can do rotational geometries, and then come up with this. I called this the impossillation because it was so damn hard to fold. It took many
Can we get the
efforts.
lights fixed again?
Sorry?
Can we fix the light?
Dim the light, please.
Ask him to turn the light.
Just
I'm not
just
sure.
say
actually.
it.
Oh, okay. Hello, AV person. Please can you
Should
have
be
the
an
lights
AV
on?
person. Can you switch
Hi.
the lights off?
Thank you.
Off.
The front ones.
More off.
More off, please.
Everything off.
So we can see.
Oh, we're getting closer.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Which is here.
Okay, so I can't remember, but I think there's something like 31 fold symmetric, or
Is it obvious how to manually fold these things, or do you have to figure that out after you?
so these things are. Let's see. So they have to be folded in one movement. Okay, so all the creases have to be put in at the same time. It's not like you're folding a crane or something where there's this piecewise steps to folding it.
And the program tells you if the crease is up or down.
Yeah, so actually I code that up, and actually I use coloring of the tiling. So 2 color tilings you do in a certain way, 3 colors in a different way. Yeah, so this I regretted immensely. It took literally months, and was, I think, just about the hardest thing I ever folded. And you can see it's not quite perfect, and but just because it can be the computer can fold it doesn't mean a person should.
Could I just quickly ask, are you saying that you get every fold in place, and then you've got
Every
to somehow
crease in
every
place.
crease in place, and then somehow you get the whole thing, and it's got to snap in one action?
That's kind of it. So you have this sheet of paper, you put all the creases in, and then you kind of gently coerce the paper by pushing it gently at the edges and then clicking the fold so that if things pop and go the wrong way, so you get them going the right way.
I've
This is-
tried very simple ones, and I've sort of regretted I've only got 2 hands.
Yes, yes, this is perfect for octopuses. It's very, very frustrating to make these, and I look forward to the day that robots can do this for me.
If instead of making them from paper, you make them out of some kind of a plastic, a thermoplastic, where you could get a laser to draw all the creases for you.
Yeah, you can-
weaken the surface.
So you can laser cut, and I think Tomohiro does that with a vinyl cutter,
Yes, some others
digital
do.
die cutters. There are all sorts of laser cutters you can use. I've tried that, but usually I end up with confetti. So maybe I'm just choosing the wrong paper, but I'd still do the folding manually and the creasing. So the current thing, I wish I'd managed to finish it in time, but this is proving somewhat frustrating also. So I'm working on this, which is a really beautiful tiling by Robert Fathauer, which is based on equilateral triangles, nonagons, and 18-gons. And it's a spectacularly simple and beautiful tiling. So there's the origami crease pattern, and okay, I couldn't show you the real thing, but here's the virtual, how it's going to look when I finally get the damn thing wrestled into a flat
Actually, it
sheet.
would have been interesting to see it while it is being worked
Mhm.
on.
So on my Flickr pages, so you can see some things which are just in process, not videos, because it's probably like watching paint dry, although actually we've done that today, haven't we? Interesting. But yeah, it's not, origami is not a spectator sport, let's just say. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the sort of the first thing that I wanted to say. And so there are algorithms to make these origami tessellations. These primal jewel tilings are really the key aspect of this. If you can generate the tiling and the jewel, you can make the crease pattern. So I've made tests, it's available. The GUI may even work on PCs if you're lucky. And so we've got to this point where virtual origami, I think, is eminently possible. Now, I think I'm okay for time. Is that right?
Yes. Well, it depends how long you intend to keep talking. But
Yeah,
so
okay.
far, so
So now I suspected that this wouldn't take the full length of time, and so I thought, well, maybe I should come up with some kind of backup plan for if I ran out of things, and how could I fill the time? And more recently I have a special interest which has come up, which I think is kind of related to this conference, maybe not today, but certainly the conference as a whole. And I don't know how many other people have thought about this. This is sort of, I think, the world's most popular game, sold 350 million of them. So I thought it might be worth just saying a few words about this, because I went to visit some friends in Norway about 3 months ago, and they had a damn Rubik cube lying on a shelf, and I picked it up. So this was a mistake. I hadn't touched one for 30 plus years. And then I started looking at YouTube, and I got obsessed again, which is pretty annoying. But actually, I thought many of you probably went through a phase of playing with this thing, and maybe you don't know how things have moved on in recent years. So if you'll permit me, I'll just show a few things I found out on my explorations on the web. So what has happened? So it's an old toy, new toy. We know there are a vast number of combinations, configurations of the Rubik's Cube. But it turns out now it's been shown in 2011 that every single one of those configurations can be solved in 20 moves or less. So this has become known as God's number. Okay, God's number is 20. For mere mortals, the number is considerably higher than 20. I don't know what your number is, but mine is probably in the range of 80 or something like that, moves to get this solved. And also the technology moves on. And I don't know if you had one of those bloody awful Rubik's Cubes that was scratchy and difficult and kept catching. That's a thing of the past. This is the MoU GTS2M. Okay, this is a freaking awesome Rubik's Cube. And it's so brilliant, I thought I'd bring one along. So yeah, this is it. And if you like Rubik Cubes, you want to have a quick play with it, then be my guest.
What's so special about it?
Okay, so one thing that has changed, so you'll see that the face or the edges here, they're now rounded. Okay, so you don't have to have things lined up perfectly, and it will fix itself. Okay, it does corner cutting, so you can have things pretty offset, and it will click into position. Okay, so you don't have to be that accurate. Reverse corner cutting is also good. Okay, also you can give them a lot of abuse. Okay, you can really pull them. You do that with an old Rubik cube that wasn't tensioned, it would be in pieces everywhere. So on another cube that I may have bought recently, a Ganair 356S. So it actually comes with a whole set of the springs. So in the center pieces you have springs, and so there are 4 sets depending on how tensioned you like it. You can take it apart, replace the springs. Okay. Technology has really moved on. But not only that, so the really special thing now, I said this was the Moyu GTS2 M. What does the M stand for? This is magnetic, baby. This has 48 neodymium magnets in it, okay? And what that means is that so this cube is sloppy, right? It flops all over the place, but it's very stable. It will tend to just grab because of these magnets back to the place. So this means it's really easy to be very accurate and at the same time. So you can get very fast. And so how fast can you get? That's the question. So the records have moved on. The first world record, Juri Froschel in 1981, came in. This was the first Rubik Cube World Championship, 38 seconds. So Min Tai, 1982, things have moved on a lot, 22.95 seconds. Actually, there was a lot of controversy about this one in the field, it turns out. So yeah, that first World Championship, you were supplied the Rubik's, or the second one, you were supplied the Rubik's Cubes. I don't know if you know, there were two different color schemes of Rubik's Cubes. And so they had one particular scheme. If you had worked before on a different color scheme, and then you were thrown this new one, you were screwed. I mean, you weren't going to get anywhere. So anyway, lots of people contest that world record. They think that was not true. Anyway, so any guesses for what the world record currently stands at?
3.2 seconds.
That's impressive. Okay, any other guesses?
6.
Yeah,
6.5.
12.
No.
Can be less than 10.
6 or
About 10.
Just a few seconds.
Yeah,
Few seconds.
that's not precise enough for me. I'm looking for wisdom of the crowds here.
10.
2.
No, no.
Like
15.
Usain Bolt, 9.8.
Okay. Okay, so let's see if we can, okay. Is this going to work?
It's loading.
Oh, for God's sake. Jesus, okay. I
You
should
can
have.
skip in now.
4.69.
Now.
Okay.
Okay, I've got to use Firefox in future. Okay.
You get to look at it.
Before starting, you were allowed to look.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, 15 seconds inspection time.
Wow.
Oh my God.
How long was that?
So we should see the time in just a moment if you haven't already seen it. This video has lots of interesting things about it. The fact that no one is more than 12 years old is quite interesting. So 4.69 seconds.
Who chooses the...
And I love this guy here. This is the judge, who's I don't know, he's maybe 10 years old.
This is the judge?
Yeah. He's very serious. It's like, no. I'm not going to get excited about this 4.69. I'm the judge.
Who chooses the starting configuration?
Sorry?
Who chooses the starting configuration?
So there's a World Cubing Association set of approved scrambles.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then you could learn them.
There are a lot of them. Yeah. So let's see. So that's the current world record, 4.69. Actually, there are unofficial. So you only get the world record at competition. There are at least 3 people who've gone less than 3.8 seconds. So yeah, actually, pretty good guess. Okay, so technology also moves on. So this is a 3x3x3 cube. But I don't know if you remember, then a 4x4x4 came out, yeah? And so technology moves on. So we have the 4x4, 5x5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You can see by 11, it's practically fit to burst, right? This thing looks like it's about to explode. And funny we should say that, but technology has moved on. Manufacturing has got so much better. Let me just see if we can get this on here. So this is a 22x22x22 in black, no stickers, particularly tough.
It's easier to make.
Yeah.
Could you ask me to turn the lights off?
Oh.
Yeah, so that's how they're made. Okay, so I think that I am just about done. I think hopefully that's expressed some of my excitement and interest at getting back into Rubik's Cubes. And the kids are doing great things with them, and you know, I'm hoping one day I can get just as fast. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, and thank you for your attention.
We have time for questions. We already had questions. Do you want to set up when we take questions? Yes, Andre.
So can you explain this business of flipping the sign on one of the angle and suddenly the real structure appears? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a good question. So if we think about the, let's see, a single vertex, okay? And so if we have that printed on the sheet, so then we have the 4 creases that go into that vertex. And so the positive alpha is sort of the angle of the pleat that the pleat radiates out. And if we turn that negative, that's sort of the equivalent of the fold. Okay?
I see.
Yeah? So that's sort of notionally how I think about it.
Yeah, I see.
So it works for a single vertex, and then, but it actually applies out to the whole thing. I didn't mention, but the scale is different. So within a scaling factor, they're the same. Give that man needs a cube. Don't throw it though.
You can't stand a cube that's mixed up. It has to.
Oh, mix it up more. Mix it up more.
No. I promise you I can do it, but I can't do it.
Sorry.
Is the algorithm basically a linear optimization algorithm? That's the reason for the primal, the dual, and the minus sign?
No, there's no optimization actually going on there. It's just all exact. There's nothing that I have to optimize.
Doesn't George Lang have an algorithm for all vertebrate animal like heads and?
Yeah. So Robert Lang has an algorithm called Tree Maker, and that's for So that's a circle packing algorithm, which is a constrained linear optimization, non-linear optimization.
Then you can do heads, body, legs, and all that.
Because they're the appendages on the graph. You can kind of think of them as circles. If you think of an umbrella sort of folding down, that gives you the length. The radius is the length. Is that what you're thinking about, maybe? Yeah.
Close.
Okay.
Any other question, Andre? Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of a naive question, but you showed some very extremely impressive tessellations. And then you showed at the end a very beautiful one you said was so difficult. Is there can an experienced person like yourself look at it and see whether it's going to be difficult to do or not? And what do you look at?
So, yeah, it's definitely true that I can look at, I mean, anyone can look at those things and go, that's not going to be too easy. But actually, the converse is that sometimes very simple patterns can end up being really difficult to do. And that's really unexpected. And sometimes patterns are completely impossible. And that's quite difficult to tell from looking at it, okay, when things are unfoldable because they're intersecting. And so there are various algorithms and so on, and maybe we'll hear some more about some of those things about intersection, non-intersection next, I hope.
And how big are your sheets of paper?
Oh, well, squares from A4 often, maybe squares from A3, rarely bigger than that though. It doesn't make them any easier to fold if they get bigger.
Can you do Penrose tiling?
It has been done. I haven't done that, but Robert Lang has a couple of versions of Penrose tilings. But frankly, neither of them are very satisfying from a
Okay,
technical
thank you again.
Thanks.